In several cases, the role of the trip leader was a contributing factor in the incident. Priest and Gass's model of outdoor leadership provides a general discussion of the leadership skills required by an outdoor leader. This backdrop provides a more focused discussion between the rafting trip leader as a manager and as a supervisor. If the trip leader is a manager but not a supervisor, then who is in charge of and supervising the raft trip and other guides? Priest and Gass define leadership as the process of influence. They note that in outdoor organizations, the sponsoring agency designates leaders as being in charge of the group. As a designated outdoor leader, you'll have the legal and moral responsibility to learn how to adequately supervise your groups as well as how to protect the environment. Based on a review of the literature dating back to the 1980s, Priest and Gass incorporate 12 attributes into their outdoor leader model. Social psychology, history, and philosophical skills form the model's foundation. Then there are hard skills, or specific teachable and measurable skills, soft or people skills, and meta skills, or skills that incorporate the hard and soft skills. For rafters, river reading and stroke or rowing technique are examples of technical skills that can be demonstrated and measured. In multi-day trips, camping skills may be included as well. For rafters, safety skills can include having an evacuation plan, first aid training, accident response, search and rescue skills, and swift water rescue skills. Environmental skills focus on interacting with the resource, including minimum impact camping, waste management, wildlife, pest management, and water purification. Organizational skills include managing risks, arranging transportation, determining food and lodging needs, scheduling activities, selecting routes, planning contingencies, and securing necessary permits, equipment, and clothing to increase the likelihood of successful experiences. Instructional skills involve the use of effective teaching aids and progressions. It may include teaching guests the basic paddling strokes and commands, passive or aggressive swimming, and on extended trips, basic camping skills. Facilitation skills include understanding group dynamics and interpersonal skills. In addition to basic skills, which Priest and Gass used to build their wall of leadership, they identified several additional skills. These include problem solving, decision making, experience-based judgment, and effective communications, flexible leadership style, and professional ethics. The 12 factors provide a good backdrop of the criteria needed for outdoor leaders, including raft guides. An underlying premise of the model is that the outdoor leader is in charge and has a supervisory role. In the following two cases, the trip leader is considered a manager of the trip with responsibilities focusing on organizational functions and logistics, and not on supervision of the trip's guides. In the 2015 Arkansas River incident, the owner indicated in his deposition that the trip leader was a guide with additional logistical and organizational functions. The owner goes on to explain these organizational functions. Leaving and returning on time is a logistical function. Get a feel for them and entertainment value suggests facilitation skills. When asked if the trip leader is in charge of the pod or group, the owner indicates that the trip leader is just another guide with additional organizational and logistical functions. In the New River incident, Diana indicates in her deposition that her responsibilities were primarily organizational and logistical. She collects release forms and meets and greets guests. Are all the guests there, and how many life jackets are needed? She explains to guests logistical responsibilities such as the itinerary, when they leave, when they will return, and lunchtime. When they arrive at the put-in, she is responsible for the safety talk. She summarizes her responsibilities as managing the guests and logistics. There is no indication that she is in charge of the group, nor does she indicate supervision responsibilities for the guides on the trip. As a sidebar, it is worth amplifying her final point. At the end of the day, making sure they have everything and gotten back safe to their cars. It is the bottom line for guides and trip leaders, to get everyone safely down the river. The difference between the trip leader as a manager and supervisor can be graphically displayed with an organizational chart. In the traditional chain of command, the trip leader is responsible to the owner or manager of the company. The guides on the trip are responsible to the trip leader. The guests are under the supervision of each of the guides. The trip leader has guests as well. With the trip leader as a manager approach, the trip leader is just another guide with some extra organizational and logistical responsibilities. The trip leader and each guide is responsible for the guests in their raft. Unless the owner-manager is on the trip, organizationally there is no direct supervision of the guides. This leaves a void in the chain of command. The supervisory role of the trip leader can easily be masked by being in the delegating phase of the situational leader. Characteristic of the delegating phase is that the raft guides on the trip are competent and skilled, and they need little socio-emotional support, or in this case, supervision. As a practical matter, they know what they need to do, and they do it. The role of the supervisor, or in this case the trip leader, is to assess the needs of the guides and then apply the appropriate treatment. As noted in the chain of command section, the problem is that, unfortunately, there is a void, and no one is assessing the guides. It is easy to assume that the trip leader, who is meeting and greeting guests and performing other operational and logistical functions, is also in charge of the trip and supervising the guides. However, this may not always be the case. The common thread in the previous discussion is that an outdoor leader is in charge of the trip. The following discussion questions focus on this issue. Priest and gas indicate that the outdoor leader is in charge and that they have a responsibility to adequately supervise your group. Do you agree or disagree? Is the trip a group of raft guides doing their own thing, or is someone in charge of the guides on the trip? Using the priest and gas model as a starting point, what hard, soft, and facilitation skills do you believe a trip leader should have? The organizational charts indicate two different approaches to the chain of command. Is the trip a group of raft guides where the trip leader has some additional organizational and logistical responsibilities, or do they have supervisory responsibilities of the trip and other guides? If they don't have supervisory responsibilities, should they? As trip leader and using the situational leader or two-question leadership models, you assess that one of your guides doesn't have the ability or is unmotivated or unwilling. Explain what you might do to mitigate or correct the situation. Returning to the question asked at the beginning of this video, hopefully your trip leader is in charge.